With me today is a brand new 2019 Audi Q7. And before the Q8 was introduced, the Q7 was the flagship of Audi's SUV lineup, which includes the Q3 and the Q5. Now, the Q7 is a mid-sized three-row SUV, and many in the industry regard this as the current king of the luxury mid-size segment. So today, I'm going to review this Q7 for you guys, show you the ins and outs, also go for a drive, and finally conclude with the good, the bad, the ugly, so you guys can decide if this is the right SUV for you. Stay tuned. All right, let's start off by looking at a side view of the Q7. First of all, if you just look at the profile of this Q7, to me, it actually looks pretty small, right? It doesn't look like a massive mid-sized three-row SUV, but once you get inside, you'll be pleasantly surprised. Besides just the overall shape, I did notice there's a lot of creases and edges, which I'm not sure why there's so many. You'll notice that there's one over here, there's another one right below, right? There's one here and another one down there. So I don't know if Audi was trying to make it more aggressive that way, and I'm not sure if that actually translates that way either. Now, if you look at the body panels, they are all painted, which is good. You don't see anything exposed, no matte black or anything like that. With the exception, small exception, that underneath the mirror here, it is flat black. And this is the only piece that's not painted. Now, besides those things, you do see a lot of aluminum roof rail. The window surround is also aluminum. And finally, down here, you do have a big aluminum strip that actually says Quattro right on top of it. Now, these wheels, these are 20-inch alloy wheels. They look pretty good to me, although I would say on an SUV this size, probably 21 or 22s would look even better. Now, moving to the front, you can definitely tell this is an Audi. The same design language across all of Audi's lineup is also on this Q7, and that is because of this massive grille, right, that goes from the top all the way to the bottom bumper. And, of course, you see the Audi emblem smack in the middle. Now, one thing that stands out to me is how low the roof slopes down to. If you're behind the driver's seat, you can definitely see well across your hood, which is good. But if you're looking in and you're looking from this front side, it kind of looks like a sedan. You almost can't tell this is a SUV. Now, the headlights and the fog lights, everything is LED, including this daytime running light. There's a couple of sensors down there, right, for radar, for adaptive cruise control, and also parking sensors. And besides that, that's pretty much it for the front side. In my opinion, I think the last generation of the Q7 actually looked a bit more aggressive than this generation. Moving to the backside, if Audi ever produced a minivan, this is probably what the backside would look like. It's pretty plain back here. There's not much. Privacy glass, integrated spoiler. You do see the sides are squared off, which is different from a Q5 and Q3, which is more rounded, and I do actually like that. Moving to the bottom bumper, there's not much other than a couple of parking sensors and the chrome exhaust tips. Unfortunately, chrome exhaust tips is kind of thin and kind of tucked in, so you don't really notice it. But that's it back here. Now, this Q7 does have the hands-free tailgate feature. Very first try. And the tailgate itself is adjustable, so those of you guys that are on the shorter side, you can make it less high. Those of you guys on the taller side, you can make this go up a lot further. All right, so let's look at the trunk. I'll be honest, this is actually smaller than I expected, and there's not a whole lot back here. I reviewed other three-row midsize SUVs that definitely had a lot more space back here. And besides space, there's not a lot of places to put things either. There's not hooks or dividers. If you look underneath here, which a lot of SUVs have storage space, this one is filled up with a Bose speaker, so you can't put anything under there. There's no hooks, so really you just have empty space. So groceries and stuff like that will probably fly around. All right, on the side, you do get a pair of buttons that controls these third rows, so you can make it go up or down. You do have to keep holding it or it'll just stop like that, and they do take a while to come fully up. Now, this is something that all luxury three-row SUVs should have, because unfortunately I just reviewed the XC90 that didn't have this, which made it impossible to fold this up. Now back here in the second row, it's very spacious and very comfortable back here. The leather feels amazing in terms of space. You'll notice I have at least 5 inches of legroom left, and I'm 5'10". Same thing with headroom, hip room, shoulder room. There's plenty of it. There's a pair of vents over here and on the side. And in terms of these seats, these are very configurable. First of all, they're 35-30, 35 split, and each section can move forward and backwards and also recline forward and backwards. It just depends on how you want to configure it. Also, there's actually 3 sets of car latches. So those of you guys that are parents, right? This is usually unseen in a midsize SUV where you have a set in the middle. So you could actually put 3 car seats in here if you wanted to. And besides that, because this is a prestige edition, you get a few extra things. You get sunshades back here, which is nice, especially when it's a hot day like today. The speakers are upgraded to Bose speakers, so there's a set in the door and also on the columns on the side. And that's pretty much back here. It's very comfortable, very spacious. You're not going to be disappointed. So here's what the vents and the climate control looks like. This is a very fancy setup, and then you do have heated seats on both sides. And underneath, you see the couple of the 12V outlets, right? Unfortunately, you're going to have to use adapter if you want to charge your iPad or gaming system. All right, moving on to the front of this Q7, just take a look at this cabin. It is absolutely stunning looking. The trim is black. It's just really elegant, moving from the door panel all the way to the center. It's all integrated. Audi does have the screen pop out from the middle, so it's not just kind of set in here. So when you have the car off, that folds down. Actually, I do like that. You do have heads-up display. And then this is the virtual cockpit, which is basically, think about the whole gauge cluster, one gigantic screen. It's really nifty looking. It looks cool. Like in this angle or this view, you could see miles per hour and RPM, although they're small, and you see a massive map, right? So it's right in your face. Although that map actually looks different from this map. So you get two sets of maps if you wanted to. And then you could also change the view. So for example, if you wanted RPM or the miles per hour to be bigger, you could do that. And of course, you could scroll through many menus in terms of your radio, your phone, your gas, trip, anything that you could think of, you can pretty much view here. It's interesting, even though this is one gigantic screen, the fuel and the temperature are analog on the side. They're kind of just like gauges, right? Kind of interesting, but this is definitely right in your face, the first thing you see, and it is really cool. Now over here, you do have a fancy, this is very fancy climate control. Everything is chrome, up or down, right? Set of heated seats and cool seats. Now one thing that's interesting is you can have both heated seats and cool seats on at the same time. So what does that do? That actually makes the heat hot, and then it blows hot air to your butt. So that's the first time I've ever seen that before. So you can have heated and cool seats on at the same time. Of course, right now in the summer, I don't want to do that. Now the center screen is controlled by this. And at first, this looks confusing and it takes a while to get used to, but after you're used to it, it's actually pretty easy to use. Now, if you wanted to there's like a couple of shortcuts. If you wanted to go map, you just do that. If you want to do telephone, right, you could just press down and it goes to your telephone. Same thing with radio and also media. So those are kind of like shortcuts. Now, in terms of everything else, you simply press the menu, and then you could control a whole bunch of things: map, navigation, telephone, media, radio, sound, vehicle, and so forth. And there's Audi Connect, smartphone interface, settings, and if you go into settings, there is a million things that you can adjust if you wanted to. Now moving on from the screen down here, look at this. Besides the black trim, you do have this very good looking dark wood trim underneath. It just looks gorgeous, the contrast. And then that also carries over down here as well. Okay, you do have, interesting enough, volume knob over here, so you got to get used to it. It's not over there, but of course you can also control it on your steering wheel, but it is over here. Couple of very small cup holders, I will say. It's not the massive ones I'm used to seeing. Now, Parking brake is over here, the electronic parking brake. You do have some change, like a some place to put your change, and this I showed you guys. Now the drive shifter, it's like 90% normal, but they did change it up a little bit. So as you can see, park is over here. So if you're in gear, you're in reverse, neutral, drive, and you want to go in park, you definitely have to remember pressing the park button. Otherwise, the car will continue to move. But everything else is in the same format, meaning that if you want to go into reverse, you go forward, neutral, down, drive down, right? The only thing is you do have to press P for park, which I'm not sure why they had to do that. They could have just made it so you could go up one more to park, but Audi and every other manufacturer wants to reinvent this drive selector to be fancy. Now you do have more space over here to put whatever, and also wireless charging for your phone. And in here, you do have a couple set of USB ports and an aux port, and just a very small space for things. Usually in the armrest, you see a massive just space for whatever you want to throw in there. Not in this Q7. Now up here, there's a few things. SOS for emergencies. You can control your lights. This is for your garage. And over here, you control this massive panoramic sunroof. All right, let's go for a drive. Now, first impression is this is a really, really nice drive. And I've only driven it for a few minutes. The suspension, even though it does not have the optional air suspension in this car, it soaks up the bump really well. The 20-inch tires, you don't really feel the road. I mean, even with these bumps, it's soaking up really, really well. The seats are really comfortable. The driving position, the visibility is all really good. And the car is super quiet. The only thing I hear is the AC right now because it is on max. But outside of that, I don't hear anything. It is a really, really comfortable and quiet ride. When you're driving in here, it doesn't really feel that big, and that's a good thing. A lot of these three-row SUVs, right, they're quite wide, quite massive. In here, you're actually sitting pretty low to the ground, so you're not sitting very high, and it doesn't seem like it's that wide. So that is a good thing for those of you guys that want a smaller feel, right, a more sporty feel. You go get it in this Q7. Now there's a couple of buttons over here for drive select, which I didn't show you guys earlier. If you press it, right now it's in auto. You can change it dynamic, comfort, off-road, individual, where you can set it. Now on the Q7 you get two engines, and this one comes with 3.0 T, and you figure with T it's turbo, but no, it's actually supercharged. 333 horsepower, close to the same in torque. And when I get a chance, I'm going to floor a little bit. 0 to 60 in 5.7 seconds, which is pretty quick for a mid-size SUV. So I'm going to see how that is. Even without the air suspension, it is really, really good. I mean, I feel like I could just like fall asleep, which obviously you shouldn't, but man, it's just such a comfortable ride. All right, so here's a little bit of a straightaway. Let me see how this engine is. There's a good amount of torque. I got up to 50 faster than I thought. It didn't sound like it. The car didn't like push me back in my seat, but man, I got up to 50 pretty quick. Now, one thing that doesn't look very luxurious, I mean, everything on the console, the buttons and everything look very luxurious. These paddle shifters are not. These are plastic, they're not even chrome, and they don't look very luxurious in here. And same thing with the buttons on the steering wheel. It's very plain, which is fine. I don't like steering wheels with a ton of buttons because then you get confused, but they actually kind of look a little bit cheap to me, so I will have to complain about that. Now here's a good corner. Man, very, very little body roll. That was nice. Now this Q7 and Audis in general are known for its handling capabilities. I just took that bend and I definitely felt like the Q7, the suspension, right? You're planted. I wasn't moving. The car's body control was good. Now in terms of steering, It does feel a little artificial because electronic steering is not too heavy, but it does feel controlled. The car just goes where you're pointing. It is very direct. Now I am in auto drive, so let me change it to performance and see if it makes a difference. Actually, I changed it to dynamic, not performance. Dynamic makes a huge difference on throttle control. It changes it so that that the engine it just feels a lot more lively and it holds the gears more. It doesn't seem like it changed anything with the steering feel though. The steering feel still feels the same. So it seems like dynamic is more just throttle control. Now I will say this lane assist feature is kind of weird because sometimes I feel it kick in. Even though I'm in the middle of the road, the system keeps adjusting to make sure I'm right smack in the middle, which is kind of annoying because I don't need it to intervene right now, but as I'm driving right now, it keeps intervening, trying to make me go in smack middle of the lane, and it's getting kind of annoying. Now I have the cool seats all the way to max, and I don't feel it that much, so I guess that's one small complaint. I've said it 100 times, I'm gonna say it again. This drive is nice. It's quiet, comfortable, it's powerful, it doesn't feel too big. The suspension is tweaked really well. Man, it's just comfortable. It's just comfortable. All right, guys, let's conclude with the good and bad and ugly about this Q7. I can honestly say this is the best driving midsize luxury SUV I have ever driven, and I've driven a lot of them. When you combine the comfort of these seats, the visibility, the quietness, the suspension, which does a marvelous job at soaking up the bumps, yet keeping the Q7 planted and with very little body roll around corners, it is absolutely a stunning and amazing and comfortable drive. I gotta hand it to Audi. They have perfected this driving experience. It is absolutely amazing. Now, in terms of the cabin, it is absolutely stunning to look at. Everything in terms of the trim, the center console, the virtual cockpit, everything here looks absolutely stunning. In terms of the space, you get plenty of it. Outside, I mentioned, it doesn't look very big from the outside, but when you're inside, you're pleasantly surprised. Up here in driving position, passenger seat, especially in the second row also, plenty of space. The second row seats are also configurable. All three seats are configurable. You can move it forward and backwards, lean it back, forwards, right? And also there's 3 sets of latches. For those of you guys that are parents, if you want to put 3 car seats, you could do so, okay? And in terms of the exterior looks, it's kind of neutral. It doesn't look bad. There's definitely SUVs out there in the same class that looks better than the Q7, but the overall profile, the shape, the lines actually looks pretty good, and it has that neutral tone, right? So it appeals to a lot of people. Now, are there things that's bad about this Q7? Just a few. The trunk space could be bigger. It is smaller for this class. The third row, getting access to the third row from the second row, the way the seats fold down is a 2-step process, a little bit cumbersome compared to other SUVs in this class. And then finally, up front, the steering wheel buttons and the paddle shifters are a little cheap because they're plastic and they don't feel very good. But outside of those things, that's it. There's nothing else. If you're in the market for a luxury midsize SUV with 3 rows, you should definitely take a look at this Q7. I really think you're going to be pleasantly surprised, especially with the drive. This is one that you don't want to pass up on. All right, guys, thanks for watching this. Make sure you smash up the like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. All right, take care, guys. Bye-bye.